I dedicated my life to giving away secrets. Secrets that chefs have held closely to them for generations, because people deserve the power. I once showed you 100 food hacks that I specifically learned in restaurants. So we're back with another 100, but with 3 times the firepower. So joining me today is Chef Chris Young, Chef Christian, and combined, we're giving you 100 more food hacks that we learned in restaurants. Industry secrets that you'd never know, but you could ironically do easily at home. Starting with number 1. Want to always have homemade cookies ready conveniently? Here's what you do. Plastic wrap. Make a double or a triple or a quadruple batch of your favorite cookie recipe. Dump it onto your plastic wrap, and then I want you to form that into a log. You roll the plastic up, tighten plastic wrap around your log, and then I want you to freeze this. And then whenever you want cookies, you pull out your frozen log, and frankly, you don't even necessarily need to take the plastic wrap off. You can just take a nice sharp knife and cut that into coins. Don't forget to remove the plastic wrap. And then in like 10 to 12 minutes, these will bake up beautifully on a baking sheet, instantly. No wait time. Just think ahead, leave it in your freezer, and obviously way better than the pre-cut store-bought ones, let's be real.
Here's a quick hack for removing fish skin, especially if your knife skills aren't up to the job. You need some fish, obviously, a bowl. I like to put some ice in the bottom. You will need a tea towel, I explain in a moment, and some boiling water. Tea towel on the fish, our boiling water. You're gonna pour it over the tea towel. The ice in the bowl beneath is quenching the boiling water so that it doesn't steam the fish from the bottom. And what the boiling water is doing is it's breaking down the collagen beneath the fish skin that holds the skin against the flesh. And when we've got enough water, the purpose of the tea towel is we can remove the boiling water before it overcooks the fish, and then just find a corner and unzip your fish. There you have it, your skinless fish fillet and some fish skin. Enjoy.
Let's talk about how to get your pasta sauce as nice and emulsified as a restaurant. So the key starts with this slurry solution. About 2 cups of water, a tablespoon of flour. You're gonna add this to your water before you even put your pasta in there. This starchy water is key to a thicker consistency for a better emulsified sauce.
Struggling to get your chicken skin crispy before it burns? Start with a cold pan. Chicken skin dried off. Down in our cold pan, set over low temperature. Season with salt, and over the course of a few minutes, the fat will slowly render out. It'll begin to crisp, and then just let it cook for another 1 to 2 minutes, or until crispy. Turn up the heat to medium high, flip, and look how crispy that is. Let it cook on the other side, and it'll cook through. And that just might be the crispiest chicken skin you'll ever have.
Frying herbs seems like the kind of fussy thing that fine dining restaurants would do, which is true. But here's a technique for making it incredibly easy that we used to use at the Fat Duck. Just put some olive oil on a plate. Take your herbs, in this case basil, anoint them in a little bit of olive oil like the Pope would want, and lay them out on the plate. And now for the key step, yes, the microwave. Give them about 2 minutes. These will be a little pliable when they come off the plate, but they will crisp up very quickly as they cool. Be sure to add a little salt. Nice little beautiful basil-y piece of stained glass. That's crisp, delicate, has that fresh flavor of basil, and is perfect for garnishing some fancy pesto pasta.
Do your baked proteins look sad, plain, a little ugly? Zhuzh it up with a breadcrumb crust. So to make the herb crust, some butter, throw in some garlic, go in, throw in some herbs, and finally, breadcrumbs. Saute till nice and golden. Brush a little mayo on your protein. Even coat, even coat. Mayo is gonna act like a glue. Take your protein, dip it in your crust. Herb crust, beautiful.
Making a dough and you want it to be easier to work with? Here, I've got a little dough for you. A lot of the time people think when they're kneading their dough, they have to knead it until it's done. You can also just stop and let it rest for like 10 minutes and then go back to kneading it. This does 2 things. It relaxes the gluten, but it also makes it easier to knead, to shape. It loosens it up. After resting, that once very sticky dough is now smooth. It's already become elastic. I can go back into kneading it just for another minute or so. Look at this thing, dude. You have a beautifully smooth ball of dough, and it's stretchy and extensible. Chef secrets.
The secret to crispy flat bacon is your oven, not your frying pan. Start with a sheet tray, lay some bacon out on some parchment, add a little bit of water. The humidity is going to help that bacon stay flat as it crisps up. More parchment on top, weight it down, and into your oven. You want to be patient about this, 250 degrees Fahrenheit, and just wait. That low temperature steaming and then frying in its own fat is going to make it crispy. About an hour later, look at that bacon. Look at how flat it is. Look at how perfect. It's a bacon emoji. It's AI generated bacon.
If you want to get rid of pesky red stains from your Tupperware, here's a hack. Put a little dish soap, a sponge, and some warm water, close it up, and shake it. Comes right off. No red stain.
You crack an egg. Oh no, oh dang it. Eggshell got in there. What the? 2 hacks for 1. Number 1, dip a finger, 2 fingers really, in some water, and you get your eggshell out much more easily. Now another hack for you, another eggshell somehow has a magnetic power. You can also get that out. I actually like this method a little bit more, using your former eggshell you then cracked your egg in there with to retrieve your broken eggshell. Now you got clean eggs. Yes!
If you've bought some picked crab or you're picking some crab yourself, there is nothing worse than biting down into a crustacean shell. It can be really easy to miss those little pieces, but there's a secret. Get yourself to Amazon, buy one of these. Blacklight flashlight, check out what happens. We're gonna take these crustaceans to a club. You can see under the blacklight, any bits of shell fluoresce under the blacklight, making it easy for me to spot them and pick them out so that we can enjoy our crustacean without a trip to the dentist. Our nice delicious crab and the crustacean shells have been picked out.
When baking, always use grams. And how do you measure things in grams? Well, a scale, for 2 reasons. Number 1, for accuracy. So I need 580 grams of flour, I'm gonna get exactly 580 grams of flour. But the other reason, and the biggest part of this hack that people don't think about, I can measure directly in the thing that I'm mixing everything. Instead of having to have a cup here, a cup there, a bowl here, a bowl there, everything can just be measured in grams in one place. Go get a scale, if you can.
Nobody wants to deep fry at home, but everyone loves deep fried French fries. Here's a way to take frozen fries and make them not suck with your microwave and an air fryer. Start with some frozen fries. This works best for thick steak cut fries. Add some water just to start to thaw the surface, about 30 seconds. Drain that water off, put a lid on, and here's the secret. This is the part you have to do. These are gonna go into the microwave. We are gonna cook these through until they are practically falling apart because that's what's gonna make them light and fluffy on the inside. That is the secret to making them crispy in the air fryer. Into the microwave. We're gonna give these about 5 minutes. Potatoes out, careful they are hot. Got a little bit of a vacuum there, we'll just release that. Plenty of steam. Make sure this lid is on snug and go to town. Into the air fryer basket. Do not overcrowd your air fryer. Do not put a liner at the bottom. That makes the air fryer not work well. Into the air fryer, maximum temperature, about 15 to 20 minutes, shaking it every so often just to keep turning them over so they get crisp everywhere. Fries done, but not quite yet. They need to be seasoned or they're not delicious. They need to be anointed with the blessed beef fat. So crispy, so light and fluffy on the inside. One of the best fries I've ever had.
Whoa! This is air fried?
Microwaved, air fried, these are frozen fries. These are almost as good as the triple cooked chips we made at the Fat Duck with a fraction of the effort.
I'm actually gonna use this one. Banger.
Don't have a dry ager? I got a hack for that. Fish sauce, brush, and a steak, and brush. Flip it, brush. Put it in the fridge for at least an hour. Easy funk, easy hack.
Got a little Parmigiano triangle, if you will. But you're always left over with the rind. What are you gonna do with it? You can eat it. Here's how. You're gonna take the Parmesan rind. This has been cut all the way down. You'll take the sharp end of a knife and just lightly scrape the rind. I'm gonna do it just in case there's any ink on it. Pop those onto a plate, and then we're gonna put them in the microwave. So after a beautiful 2 minutes, you have a Parmesan crisp, if you will. Cheers.
It's like the ultimate Cheez-It.
You have leftover Parmesan rinds. At least there's something you can do with them. You can eat them.
If you've got some dry ice, you can turn a stand mixer into an ice cream machine. Start by taking some dry ice and bashing it into a powder. You want small pea-sized pieces. Stand mixer. Add our sorbet base. Start on low speed. We're gonna put the dry ice in. The dry ice is going to freeze the sorbet as it stirs. Biting down on a piece of dry ice is a trip to the dentist. So after you churned it, put it in the freezer for 30 minutes to harden and allow any final pieces of dry ice to finish dissipating. We got our sorbet. You can carbonate anything with dry ice, like fruit. You just need a cooler. Take a container of dry ice. We're gonna put the dry ice in a corner, uncovered. Then we're gonna do some fruit. We need to let the CO2 sit in here for a couple of minutes so that it pushes all of the air out and fills us with CO2. Put the lid on, leave it cracked. You can tell it's ready if you stick your head in and take a breath and it feels like you're on fire. That's because it's all CO2. So wait until it's too difficult to breathe. Then we're gonna close this up and wrap it tight. I'm gonna leave this overnight.
Whoa! It's literally like a little mimosa in your mouth.
Try a banana.
I don't like seeing the inside of my banana move, so I'm gonna draw the line there. This is so good. It's like spicy fruit. The kids are gonna love this one, dude. Food science.
Does stuff stick to your knife when you're cutting it? Just wet your knife before you cut that sticky stuff. For example, cutting sticky fruit sucks, dude. It's always stuck to my knife. So if you wet your knife, it's gonna glide right through it. Promise. Voila.
Want to make the best cookies ever? Well, there's very few recipes out there that are the best that don't rest their cookie dough. When you chill it, it firms up, right? At this stage, it is way too loose, but refrigerating it will firm it up. Second, it ages and deepens the flavor. And the third one for fun, when it bakes from cold instead of warm, you end up with a much more uniform, less spread out cookie, a thicker, fudgier cookie. Bonus hack, that's right. We have a brand new website for all the recipes that we do on the second channel, which by the way, if you're not subscribed, you should go subscribe to it. Recipes only over there, Josh Weissman Recipes. But What I really want to talk about is the website. We worked really hard on it. It's brand new. It has all of our recipes fully written on there and printable. So link in the description, joshweissman.com.
Does your water take forever to boil? 2 things. Quit watching it and make sure you cover it. Don't have a lid? Use a pan. So as long as you cover it, it'll boil faster. There you go, boiling.
Good steak's expensive these days, but it doesn't have to be. You can take a chuck steak and use sous vide to make it ribeye tender by cooking it overnight at 137 degrees Fahrenheit, giving it all of that time to break down the tough connective tissue and giving you that ribeye tenderness and all of the flavor of a chuck steak at a fraction of the price. Just cook it off for at least 12 hours and then sear it and enjoy.
Wow.
Butchers love this trick. Basically take a cheap cut of meat, upgrade it into something as good as ribeye.
Nailed that one. You want to cook a super thick steak, but you don't have a sous vide. This is called the reverse sear method. Get your thick steak, season it generously with salt and pepper, set that on a wire rack, set over a baking sheet, regardless of the thickness. Place it in the oven at around 250 to 275 Fahrenheit until the internal temperature reaches 125 Fahrenheit. Then you'll take it out, let it rest for a couple minutes, get a hot pan, sear it for 2 minutes on both sides. You can serve it with butter on top, and that is a beautifully cooked steak.
Dry ice can carbonate anything, like this bottle of orange juice. You're gonna want a plastic soda bottle. The soda bottle is designed to actually hold the pressure of the carbon dioxide. Start by taking your orange juice. This works best if everything is ice cold to begin with. I need about a 4-gram piece of dry ice. We'll let the CO2 fizz for a little bit so that the CO2 pushes all of the air out. Lid on tight. I'm just gonna put this in my fridge for about 30 minutes. It's like a mimosa without the champagne.
All done with your pickles? Have a bunch of juice? Don't toss it. You can make a lot of things with this. Talking marinades, even salad dressings. Strain your pickle juice, a little bit of salt, some fresh pepper, and some olive oil. Oh, voila. Salad dressing.
Making a pizza and it sticks to the peel? Sure, flour works, but you know what works better? Semolina. Okay, they're like little miniature ball bearings. This will help your pizza slide from peel to oven.
Here's how to turn your domestic oven into a Neapolitan pizza oven with a cast iron pan upside down and a broiler. And we're gonna use the broiler to create the radiant heat that you would get from a traditional pizza oven to quickly cook the top so that the whole pizza cooks in under 90 seconds. It is important that your pizza not be larger than the diameter of your cast iron pan. Ask me how I know. There is a chance you will slide the pizza off the back side, so I really recommend putting a baking tray underneath it, because if you miss, the pizza's ruined, but at least you won't have to clean your oven. 90 seconds.
This is a great hack. Crispy bottom, first of all, really nice. Crisp around the edge. That's a beautiful pie. And I'd have no idea it was made on a cast iron skillet. Beautiful work.
90 seconds, job done.
Want creamier, fluffier, and richer eggs? The key is just to add a little bit of mayo. So for about 3 eggs, 2 teaspoons of mayo.
Let's start with maybe the normal one. So good.
Classic.
Oh, I don't even taste the mayo. Texturally though, it is very different. It hits way better. You ever go to a restaurant and you see those nice little cheese ribbons on salad? You might think, oh, they take a knife and they... No. You can do that, but I think a lot of people have one of these. Instead, use a vegetable peeler on your cheese and guess what you get? Stunning, beautiful ribbons of cheese. I mean, look at this. Any hard cheese this will work with. Parmigiano, Pecorino, an aged Gouda, so on and so forth.
Want to cook a great steak faster, more evenly, and with an amazing crust? Flip it every 30 seconds. Oil the steak a little bit rather than the pan. You'll get less smoke into the pan, laying it away from you. If you leave the steak alone, the top is essentially staying cold the whole time, but you reach a point where heat can't go into the bottom of the steak any faster. So by flipping it every 30 seconds, we're bringing heat to the surface of the steak as quickly as we can, turning it over, letting this side rest while heat still penetrates. So we're effectively cooking it from both sides at the same time. You're gonna get a lot more carryover cooking. So if you want a rare, medium rare steak around 130 Fahrenheit, you're gonna need to pull this off when its core temperature is 105 and let it rest so it coasts all the way up.
Don't have measuring cups available? Deli cups. If you don't have these, go get them. Half pint, 1 cup. Pint, 2 cups. A quart, 4 cups. Easy. Don't have a half pint? Fill a pint in half. Quick math.
Want to rise dough faster, but you don't have one of those expensive proofers? Don't worry, just put it in an empty oven or even a drawer with the light on and a mug of hot water. Close that, let it proof. It'll probably proof twice as fast.
Here's a way to make a Slurpee without a frozen carbonated beverage machine. You're just gonna need some Coca-Cola. Just take an empty bottle, add the sugar, add the guar gum, add the pectin, and add the yucca powder. Blend them together by shaking. You wanna add the Coke to the powders, not the other way around. Stir that up, pour your syrup in slowly. so that you don't get too much fizzing. We've got our magic Slurpee ingredients inside our carbonated Coke. Just give that a good shake. Gently crack it to let any air out. Tighten it back down. And this just needs to go into the freezer for a few hours. Give it a shake every hour or so to help break up those ice crystals. So this has been in the freezer for about half a day. It's nice and frozen. I'm giving it a good shake to break up the ice. It should feel like you're shaking wet sand. And just gonna crack this open. A little bit of an overflow. It's a Coca-Cola Slurpee.
Is your sauce too thin and you don't want to deal with a roux? Use a cornstarch slurry. It'll thicken up real quick. Water, cornstarch. Whiskey business. Drawing from Asian cooking techniques, it's way easier than making a roux, and it works on a variety of sauces.
I got another hack for you in the middle of this. You ever rest your meat and it somewhat overcooks by it sitting on the countertop? That's because the heat is pressed up against the board, essentially suffocating. It doesn't allow for airflow. So instead, rest it on a wire rack set over a baking sheet. This will allow air to circulate so it can cool a little bit and not continue to cook.
The secret to a perfect French fry is a perfect potato. Big fast food companies can demand their potato suppliers give them perfect potatoes. You buy whatever potatoes are left at the supermarket. What makes a potato perfect? The right amount of dry matter content. How do you measure it? You just need some salt brine. 120 grams of salt for every liter of water, and then you just put your potatoes into the brine. Potatoes that sink have the right amount of dry matter content. Potatoes that float are floaters, and floaters are never good. Get rid of them. Use them for mash. Just sort your potatoes into mash and perfect for French fries. Now take these potatoes, slice them up, blanch them, and double fry them because that makes for a great French fry.
Does your at-home pasta not taste as good as the restaurants? The key is salty water. No. How do you know if it's salted enough? You taste it. If it's as salty as the ocean, you're good to go.
Before you sear your meat, always dry it off completely with a paper towel, then put it in the pan. If you have a wet piece of meat, you will not get a good sear. That layer of liquid then has to evaporate before the heat even gets to the surface of your meat, and by then, it's boiled the meat and you'll flip it over and it'll be gray, it won't have a great Maillard or browning.
Make your sorbet fruitier using fructose. Just start with about 500 grams of ripe strawberries, 100 grams of fructose, 5 grams of malic acid to make it juicier and more delicious. And here's my secret if you're making this for adults. Some Angostura bitters. The alcohol in the bitters is gonna make this punchier and the flavor is delicious. About 50 grams. Blend that up, pass it through a sieve. You can turn this into a sorbet just by freezing it in a Ninja Creamy canister because who doesn't have a Ninja Creamy these days?
Here's the fastest way to clean your blender. Warm water, soap, and turn on your blender. And it cleans your blades.
Air fryers aren't known for being great at searing, but they can be with the help of some mayo. Take a nice pork chop, a little bit of mayo, brush that over. If you just put oil on this pork chop and put it into an air fryer, as the juices come out of the pork, the oil's gonna run off. You're not gonna get very good heat transfer. It's not gonna brown evenly. We put mayo on because it's emulsified. It keeps the oil in place. It also helps our seasoning stick. Cook that until the pork chop is about 135 and then let it rest to about 145 degrees so that it's still slightly pink, because pink pork is actually juicy and delicious.
To render your fat evenly and prevent your steak from curling, score your fat cap. You're gonna go one way, flip your steak, and go the other way. Create little diamond cuts. Looks like this.
Problem, you've got a frozen turkey breast that you want to have for dinner. This is going to take a couple of days to thaw in a fridge. It'll take 6 or 7 hours to thaw in your sink. Just cook it from frozen. It's faster, juicier, and safer. Just put it on a roasting tray, put it into a low oven at 250 degrees. It's going to take a couple of hours to thaw as it cooks. That's why you don't want it too hot. You do not want to burn the outside before the inside is thawed. Then finish cooking this turkey breast to 155, 160 so that it's still juicy and entirely safe. And then, when you're ready to eat, turn the oven up to 400, 450, finish browning that off, and there you go. Now that it's had just a couple of minutes in the oven, it's thawed out enough that it's wet on the surface. I'm gonna salt and pepper it, but first, I'm gonna remove this turkey's hairnet. Plenty of salt. You can use more than you think. Some black pepper. Back into the oven, a couple of hours to thaw through, finish cooking and getting up to temperature, and then we'll crisp it. Browned under a broiler, now we just need to slice. By thawing the turkey and cooking it straight from frozen, you keep about 30% more juice than if you thawed it in your fridge and then cooked it. That's about as good as turkey gets.
Having a hard time cutting cinnamon rolls with your regular knife? Well, you actually don't even need a knife. You just need unflavored dental floss. You're gonna wind it in between your fingers, find the thickness you wanna cut it. I'll say like right around here is a good thickness, right? You're gonna put the floss underneath the dough, bring it around. So now they're crossing each other, and then you're just gonna pull both sides all the way through and across. Beautiful little cut right there, bro. This is by far the best method to cutting cinnamon rolls I have ever found. It blows my mind every time. See, when you use a knife, this happens, right? You sort of squash the layers together as opposed to keeping them nice and intact. Sure, if your knife is really sharp, you might be able to saw away at it, but even then, you're still kind of crushing the layers. You see how compacted the cinnamon sugar is here versus here? You really want it to be loose. You really want it to have some breathing room.
Okay, so you're gonna go to the trouble of deep frying at home. You've got your fresh oil hot and ready. The problem is, fresh oil doesn't fry very well. The best oil is oil that is somewhat broken in. How do you break your oil in? Save some used oil and pour a little bit of that used oil into the fresh oil. The used oil has plenty of the natural emulsifiers that are formed when oil is used. Adding them to the fresh oil is gonna help it fry your food better, so you get a golden brown, even crust and none of that splotchiness. And now, this oil is ready to fry some great battered fish. Gluten is the enemy of crispy batters. Vodka is the secret to a better batter. Here's how. 200 grams of all-purpose flour, 200 grams of rice flour, makes it crispier, a teaspoon of baking powder. So I'm gonna stir my vodka into my dry ingredients. Since this is gonna be for fish, I'm gonna add about 300 milliliters of beer. This should have the consistency of a thin pancake batter. Then into my batter and into some frying oil that's been broken in at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at that. Got these extra crispy bits here. That fish is gonna be perfect on the inside, and that is light and delicate, not gonna be stodgy at all. That fish is still juicy in the center, perfectly cooked, and my batter isn't doughy, it's just crisp and delicious all the way through.
You ever add tomato paste, but it doesn't quite add the flavor you thought it would? Instead, try doing this. Cook your tomato paste first. Never just add it to a finished dish and call it a day, but add it to an empty pan, whatever your aromatics are. In this case, I'm making a vodka pasta, so I've got garlic and shallots. I'll add my tomato paste, and you cook that tomato paste way down. Medium heat, saute, stirring often until it's deeply, deeply caramelized, about 2 to 4 minutes. You'll know once it starts to stick to the bottom of the pan, like this. Now you can add whatever sauce, cream, broth, or whatever you're using tomato paste for. Just make sure to cook it down first. This is what adds the flavor to the tomato paste, and you're cooking off the water that's getting in the way of the flavor.
When you deep fry, shallow fry, whatever, you will probably end up with a bunch of oil that is dirty and looks like this with schmutz in it. You probably want to throw this oil out, but don't do that. Save this oil. You can rescue it. You just need a little bit of this, some gelatin, and a little bit of hot water. Dissolve the gelatin in the hot water, stir it into that deep frying oil. Now you just let it sit. What's gonna happen is the gelatin in water is going to pull out all of the debris, all of the dirty stuff in the oil. It's gonna settle to the bottom. You can leave it in the fridge so that that gelatin gels, and then just pour off your perfectly clean, reusable oil, which will in fact actually fry better because this oil has been slightly used. There we go. All of the schmutz, all of that gelatin and water has settled to the bottom, leaving us with very clean oil on the top. I could leave this in the fridge and let this gel and solidify, but if I'm in a rush, I can just pour the oil, use a strainer to catch any loose bits that happen to come through. And there we go, clean, refreshed oil with the help of a little bit of gelatin, ready to fry a second time.
Don't want to damage your nice countertops, but you got a lot of crumbs? Use a squeegee. Not a scratch.
Add instant umami, more specifically, flavor to things. Either add shiradashi, soup noodle base, just adds a nice savory flavor to things. My favorite, MSG. You can apply this to literally everything. Let's say you're making a nice little sauce for a sandwich. So you got a little mayo, you got a little mustard. Maybe you want a little relish in there too. That's pretty common, right? Mix it together. Oh yeah, it tastes all right. It tastes pretty good, but it could be better. Instead, you could add a pinch of MSG, or you could add a little squirt of shiradashi, you know, about a teaspoon. And then if you're making a little sandwich, guess what you do with the sauce? You put the sauce on the sandwich, maybe you add a little turkey to the sandwich, add a nice little piece of lettuce, bada bing, bada boom, you got a quick little sandwich with a little extra flavor.
The secret to nacho cheese that melts like the store-bought stuff, but tastes like real cheese because it's made with real cheese, is Alka-Seltzer. Get the stuff without the aspirin in it, or if it's Cinco de Mayo, get the stuff with the aspirin in it. You will need 3 Alka-Seltzer tablets, 6 teaspoons of vinegar. This reaction is gonna create sodium citrate. Sodium citrate is the secret ingredient that makes Velveeta melt so well, and it's what's gonna make our nacho cheese sauce uber melty. Let this react. Once it's fully reacted, we just add it to a sauce pot over low heat. We add 6 ounces of cheese, a little bit at a time, just like you're making fondue. Let that melt slowly. Water, add enough to the consistency you like. You can make it as thin or as thick as you want just by adding more or less liquid. Cheese doesn't melt like that without sodium citrate, and you can either buy sodium citrate or you can make it with Alka-Seltzer. There is your own nacho cheese sauce that tastes like real cheese with a little help from Alka-Seltzer.
Groceries are getting expensive, so this is how you keep your food costs low at home. You can take your leftover scraps, put them in a jar, and save them for soup or stock. All these scraps are gonna add a huge depth of flavor to your stock.
Dredging chicken, your hands get all clumped up and messy and it just gets harder and harder to dredge. The hack is use one hand for dry stuff and the other hand for wet stuff. Never mix the two. So I'll take my wet chicken and put it in my dry batter, then I'll swap to my dry hand, coat the chicken with flour, and then toss it. To coat fully and beautifully, then have a nice coated piece of fried chicken. Now, if you mix the two, if I decided to dredge this chicken and then reach back over here with my floury hands, dunk them back in, and then go back over here and then dredge again with yet again the same hand, look what happens. Uh-oh! Just try to do your due diligence and, keep your hands separate.
Do you love sweet and sour candy? Of course you do. It's delicious. The secret is to mix a fruit acid with your sugar. Malic acid is a naturally occurring sugar found in apples, cherries, and other delicious fruits. Just mix it with a couple of tablespoons of sugar. You can do this to taste. You can make it as sour or as sweet as you like. It's gonna make these berries juicy and delicious like candy. Just over my strawberries, give them a toss. Better than sweet and sour candy. Take that malic acid and combine them with sweet summer fruit to make them like candy.
So you got some herbs. They're sitting in the fridge and, well, you forgot about them and they're kind of limp. Here's how to bring them back to life. Ice water. Herbs in the ice water. Let them sit for a few seconds, spread them out, and then remove them and drain on a paper towel. Good as new.
Is your ice cream hard to scoop? Dip your ice cream scoop in warm water for a few minutes, then give it a go. Oh yeah, look at that.
Hack. You want to maximize your flavor of herbs, add it at the very end. Add your herbs later. So my stock is done. I've turned off the heat, but it's still very hot. I take my fresh herbs, bruise them or crack them open, put them in the stock, let the stock rest for about 10 minutes. That will be the most amount of flavor you get out of those herbs.
If you can whisk eggs and boil water, you can make a perfect Parisian omelet. This is gonna look crazy. 3 eggs. Boiling water, pour it in. It's going to look like a mess. Cover it. The omelet rises to the top. We're just going to decant off some of the water. Sieve, clean tea towel. Just shape it with the tea towel. And we're just gonna roll that out onto the plate. Some butter, a little bit of flaky salt. That is light, fluffy, perfectly cooked all the way through. Ooh, that is a delicious Parisian style omelet made by poaching.
The easiest herb oil. Now, you want a nice little green herb oil? Very simple, right? Pick your green herbs, something tender like parsley, for example. Maybe you want some chives, add some chives in there too. Now, you'll see a lot of recipes where you gotta cook it or you gotta blanch it, blah, 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 blah. No, it can all be done in a blender. Top that off with some neutral tasting oil, and then all you're gonna do is blend that on high, letting it run and run and run until it reaches a temperature of around 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Take it out, strain through a fine mesh strainer with a cheesecloth set into it, and that's herb oil.
So ever feel like your cutting takes forever? A chef once told me the less you put your knife down, the more you get done. It's all about efficiency. If you're cutting a lot of something, repeat the same motion before you move on to the next step. Finish it all, then put your knife down. So for example, cutting onions. Instead of cutting both ends of one onion and then peeling it, see how I put my knife down? No, cut all the ends, then put your knife down, then you do the next motion. It's more efficient, trust me. Don't want to deal with chopping onions? Put them in a food processor. Nobody cares about knife cuts in a meatball or a sauce.
Have you ever wondered how they take mandarins that look like this and turn them these perfectly pith-free jewel-like mandarins in a can? The secret is a helper enzyme, pectinex. Let me show you the trick. Start by peeling the skin off your citrus fruit. You can leave them whole or break them down into individual segments. I'm gonna add just enough water to cover while weighing the amount of water I added, in this case 400 grams, and I'm gonna add 1% of Pectinex by weight, so that's 4 grams. Cover that with a lid, give it a swirl to stir the enzyme around into the water. Leave this in your fridge overnight, and let me show you what you get. After an overnight soak, all of the pith has been broken down by the enzyme, and you're left with clean mandarins. You can just give them a little rinse off to make them perfect. This works for any citrus fruit.
Make a soup out of just about any vegetable. This is what restaurants do. You get a pot, you could saute, you could boil with broth, whatever. Find a way to cook your vegetables way soft. I've got tomatoes, I've got some red bell pepper that's been simmering in some broth that I sauteed and browned a little bit. It's already cooked down, it's already in the pot. If you have a stick blender, just give that a quick run through. Now at this point, you can emulsify a little bit of oil or butter in there. In this case, I'm just gonna add a touch of olive oil. That's just gonna make it a little bit richer, a little bit creamier, a little smoother. You have a beautifully smooth, delicious instant soup. Shout out to restaurants for that one. Now, I might not be a vegan or a vegetarian, but if you are, or you like to cook tofu, always do this first. Dry and press it. One paper towel, set your tofu on top, place another on top of that, and put any weight directly over it. Ideally, this is chef's press. Could be a container of heavy berries, but you dry it and press it in the fridge overnight before you cook it, sear it, fry it. Otherwise, I'll show you the difference. So you end up with a much better product here because on one end, the drained and pressed one has a lot less moisture on the surface and on the inside. So it's gonna get a really nice crispy crust. It's gonna get browned properly, and then the other one that hasn't been drained as well, it doesn't get enough color and browning. Dry and press your tofu.
When you're making pie dough, you gotta cut the butter into little even pieces. It's never even, it's inconsistent. So take your butter, put it in the freezer, then grate it. You get consistent little butter pieces. Consistent.
Don't have a piping bag? Okay, well what about just a regular plastic bag? Take a Ziploc bag, plastic bag of some sort, a storage Ziploc really. Fill it up with whatever batter or whatever you need a piping bag for. And now you cut that tip and you essentially have a piping bag right here. Which brings me to the next one. Everybody loves a perfectly circular pancake, but what could make that? Well, actually a piping bag or our makeshift one. Cut the tip, hot pan, and just pipe it in. It's so circular.
Sous vide has a reputation for being too slow. These chicken breasts take over an hour, way too long for a quick meal on a Tuesday night. Not anymore, not with this simple technique. If you want your chicken breasts a nice, juicy, delicious at 155 degrees, start with your water bath 20 degrees hotter, 175. Drop your chicken breasts in. Don't worry, they're not gonna overcook. By setting the water bath hotter, we're getting the chicken breasts up to that sous vide temperature without having to wait around forever. When the timer goes off, just turn the bath down to a couple degrees above your target temperature and add some ice to get that bath down to that temperature so that you don't overcook your breast. By starting hotter, you're getting the surface temperature of the chicken breast up to the sous vide bath temperature faster, saving you all that time and getting these chicken breasts done in half the time of traditional sous vide. And there you go, sous vide chicken breasts done in 30 minutes, not an hour, and all these need now is a quick sear off on the grill.
These are two hacks for one. Caramelizing onions significantly faster. If you're doing a caramelized onion, normally they take about an hour to do. So instead, here's what you do to kickstart it. Hot pan, a little bit of oil or butter, your onion. A lot of the time people would salt it and then you cook it down, you let the natural sugars caramelize. But if you add a touch more sugar to those onions, not much, just a pinch, okay? Just a pinch. Along with your salt, stir that together. That little addition is gonna interact with the rest of the sugars that are already naturally present and help speed up the process of caramelization. Second hack to caramelizing onions faster. You could leave this on a low heat and then just let it slowly caramelize. Instead of it taking an hour, it might take 45, maybe 30. But what if you wanted to take 15 minutes? Turn the heat up to medium, medium-high. Let them sit for a couple of minutes and they'll start to look like this. Okay, they're burning a little bit, that's good, right? We're getting a little bit of a coating on the pan of fond. Add a touch of water, just a splash, like a tablespoon, and deglaze that. Let the water evaporate and then let that cook down again and let it burn again. Then a few minutes later it starts to burn again and guess what? You're gonna deglaze again. Reduce all that water out. Scrape up the brown bits on the bottom. And you can see we're already like halfway to a caramelized look in like 5 minutes. We're gonna repeat that for another 5 or so minutes and in 10 to 15 minutes total, you have essentially a caramelized onion. Similar flavor, but a little bit less cooked. It works if you're in a rush.
I've got a bonus hack for you. I'm wearing something different. It says Team Water. The hack is, if you donate $1, you give one person water for a year. 100% of the money that we raise together will support our charity partners led by WaterAid to bring clean water to communities around the world for decades. The goal is to raise $40 million. So if you want to help out, if you want to participate in this, all you got to do is donate. Donate $1, give one person water. Simple as that. Click the link in the description and you can participate in Team Water.
Want to vacuum seal a steak but don't have any fancy equipment? Ziploc bag. Add some fat, add some herbs because it's more delicious this way. And then use the Archimedes principle. Some water, crack a corner, push that bag all the way down to squeeze out the air using the water to displace it. Make sure it's closed. And there you go, vacuum sealed without any fancy equipment. This is great for sous vide or if you just want something to stay fresher in the fridge for longer. Hollandaise has a reputation for being incredibly finicky. You just need to stand at the stove stirring and if you look at it wrong, it breaks. Not anymore, at least if you have sous vide. Ziploc style bag, plenty of butter, add your egg yolks, salt because seasoning is delicious, shallot and vinegar reduction that of course you've prepped out in advance, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Just put that all into a sous vide water bath at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The sous vide's gonna melt the butter. It's going to denature the proteins in the egg yolk so that it is primed to just emulsify perfectly when you take the next step, which is dump it all in a blender and just blend. Then you have bulk hollandaise on demand that is perfectly silky smooth every time without any worry. Perfect for those of you who work brunch.
Poaching an egg and it falls to pieces? Here's a key. 2 things. Number 1, salt. Number 2, a splash of vinegar. Helps the whites congeal. Cracked egg, give it a stir, and drop your egg in. There you go, perfectly poached egg.
Do you have a stained and smelly cutting board? Use lemon and salt to make a scrub to refresh and clean it. So throw some salt on your cutting board, squeeze a little bit of lemon juice, open up your lemon, just go to town. The salt works as an abrasion, the lemon works as a refresher. Clean and fresh.
This is a big one. Whenever you're cooking, always have a dry towel and a wet towel. Why? Maybe your knife is a little dirty. Wet towel to clean it off, dry towel to dry it off. You always are prepared for any situation. Dry towel for dry ingredients like breadcrumbs, and a wet towel for wet ingredients like umami sauce. Shout out to Kimono Mom. Wipe that up. Oh no, this is dirty. And now it's not.
Here's a quick hack for making some gnocchi. Rather than rolling it out and cutting them down by hand, just get yourself a piping bag and some string. Check this out. So I'm just piping these out to length, using the string to cut them off right into the simmering water, and I will strain them out onto an oiled sheet tray, keep them from sticking, and then quickly cook them off in some brown butter to give them a nice bit of color and flavor. Job done.
You ever cook a recipe and you realize halfway through, oh snap, I'm missing something. Let's prevent that by mise en place. Put everything in its place. For example, here, I have a recipe for vodka pasta. Have everything already measured out. There's no need for me to stop halfway through and be like, oh snap, let me grab a teaspoon. Oh snap, where's the garlic? With everything in front of me, I can cook without stopping. Efficiency.
Here's how to char peppers quickly. You could use a broiler, you could just kind of bake them at a high temperature, but the best, fastest way is directly over an open flame, whether that be a campfire or on a grill or directly over your kitchen stove. Turn your kitchen burner on maximum heat and place your pepper directly on top of the grates. Want to speed that up even more? You could even add a blowtorch in the equation if you have one. This will char your pepper much faster. Bonus hack, don't wash the skins off your charred peppers. Instead, take a damp paper towel and then just wipe the char off. You see, if you wash it off, you're washing all those nice pepper flavors off. Now you're left with a pepper with maximum flavor.
Nobody likes a cold steak or a warm salad. So to solve that, put your hot food on hot plates, put your cold food on cold plates. Let's maximize your eating experience. Throw your plates in the oven. The hotter your oven is, the less time you want to put it in there for. About 5 minutes or so, give or take. For cold plates, just put it in your fridge until you need it.
All right, if you plan on storing cheese longer, here's a problem. You wrap it in plastic wrap, right? Or you put it in a plastic baggie. It molds faster that way. You wanna store it longer. All you gotta do is take a block of cheese, place it in some parchment paper, fold the sides over to then encase the cheese. Now you could leave it like this, but just to keep it extra airtight, you can also put it in a layer of foil. This will keep it better for longer in your refrigerator. So you're grating a little bit of Parmigiano, maybe some Pecorino, and you got this down to the nub. Don't throw this away. First of all, save it in a bag, leave it in your fridge. If you're making some chicken stock, snap it, throw it in there, and let it finish with the stock for the last 30 minutes of making it. It'll give it a beautiful, rich umami, a little bit of cheesiness, and just some general overall depth. And for example, this would be a great stock to use in a risotto.
Braised vegetables can be delicious, but way too often they just have this stewed texture and no flavor. There's actually a secret for getting that melt in your mouth texture, but keeping all of the fresh flavor of that vegetable. Take something like fennel. The trick is to just microwave it and let it steam in its own juices. I'm add just a little bit of water, plenty of Evo, a little bit of salt because it makes everything taste better. Cover it in a microwave safe container, into the microwave. Everybody's microwave is a little bit different, so your exact time may vary, but I'm gonna start with about 4 minutes. And then after that, I'll check the texture and give it 30-second bursts until it gets that melt in your mouth texture while keeping all of the fresh anise flavor of this bulb of fennel. Careful when opening, it is a little steamy. Still got that vibrant spring green flavor. Hasn't broken down to brown, but I can just see by poking at this, even the root bulb is nice and tender. It's soft, still slightly al dente, has that really fresh flavor, and it took about 4 minutes in the microwave.
Want to blanch a small amount of vegetables but don't want to deal with the pot, the strainer, this, that bowl? You can do it all in one bowl with a water kettle. This only works with a small amount of vegetables, but let's say you've got enough green beans for 2 to 4 people, or any vegetable really. Large bowl, tea kettle, boiling water. Take it off, pour just enough boiling water on top to cover the vegetables. Cover with plastic wrap, and then let that sit for about 3 to 5 minutes. Now after that, take the plastic wrap off. You already got a bowl, you already got water in it, just dump ice directly over it. Toss, and now you have ice water. Let those cool down, and in about 30 seconds, you have a beautiful ice cold, blanched, tender, still retaining crunch vegetable.
Wrapping celery in paper towels or plastic, make it flimsy. Wrap it in foil. The foil helps retain the moisture, allowing your celery to stay crispy.
You ever make a cucumber salad and you let it sit and it just becomes a watery mess? do this first. Once you've cut your cucumbers, before you dress them, first season them lightly with salt and then toss them together. Let them sit for about 5 minutes, then squeeze them and that'll drain them of their excess water, then dress them.
Don't know when to throw away your food? Before you put your stuff away, label it with the date you're going to throw it away. Less thinking.
Bread stales as it sits around. Stale bread sucks. It's easy to fix. When bread sits around, it actually gets heavier. It absorbs water out of the air and it tastes dry because the starch granules crystallize. We can undo that process and it's easy. Just take your stale bread, wrap it in some foil, put it into an oven at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit or so, just long enough to warm the bread through. It will drive off the excess moisture, it will melt those starch crystals, and it will make this bread not suck. Into the oven. It's gonna take about an hour. The bread's a foam, it doesn't heat quickly. Oh, nice and soft. Take the foil off. Let that cool a little bit before eating it, but there's your refreshed, no longer stale bread.
Want to keep your mushrooms from being moldy and slimy? Store them in a paper bag, because plastic bags trap the moisture and they get all sticky. Paper allows the mushrooms to breathe, allowing a little bit more shelf life.
Storing homemade sauces is messy and inefficient. I love my deli containers, but instead, store them in squirt bottles. If you store them in squirt bottles, it's the same concept. I mean, they're gonna stay completely airtight. You can leave them in the fridge. Now they store easily and they're immediately ready to use whenever you need to. I spilled, but it is ready. But it doesn't stop there. You can also do this with the things that you regularly use every day, like oils. That way, anytime you go to cook, ready to go. You don't need to unscrew a bottle, you just squirt it in, you're good to go. This is what restaurants do.
Once you've finished your delicious rotisserie chicken, here's how you turn it into a restaurant-worthy chicken stock in under an hour with your Instant Pot. Yes, an Instant Pot. Chicken carcass in. If you got some remnants, scrape them in too. Don't worry if it's been in people's mouths. You're gonna pressure cook this. It's gonna be sterile. Add just enough water. You don't wanna quite cover it. There you go. Lid on. Pressure cook for about 1 hour. 1 hour later, strain that off. That is perfect for some chicken noodle soup. If you want this to be crystal clear, if you want to be fancy and make it a chefy consomme, all you need to do is freeze it. Get yourself an ice cube tray. Pour the chicken stock into the ice cube tray. We're gonna freeze this. I'm gonna show you how we ice filter this to get a consomme so clear you'd think it's chicken bourbon. Now that you've frozen your chicken stock, just demold them. Pile these into an appropriate device with a coffee filter. There you go, just stack them up. This is gonna go into the fridge overnight. As the ice thaws, it's going to self-filter, self-clarify, self-concentrate into chickeny, clarified deliciousness.
If you want clear and better tasting stock, you have to skim the impurities. So right off the top, all those impurities suck up your flavor that you want to keep. You're looking for that scum, cloudy, nasty stuff off the top. All you gotta do is just skim it with a little strainer. Do this throughout your whole cooking process and you'll have a clear, flavorful broth.
I'm a firm believer that a rice cooker is the end-all be-all of great rice. But what if you don't have a rice cooker? You don't want to buy one? Well, if you have a pot, here's how you do it. Rice into your pot. We're gonna fill this with water. You're gonna get in there, agitate your rice, carefully drain off the water, not to get any of the rice out. Fill it up again, and then just repeat that process until your rice water runs clear. Here's the real key. You're gonna then spread your rice out into an even layer that coats the bottom of the pan. And then from there, you're gonna add just enough water until when you touch the rice with your finger, that water comes just up to your first knuckle. Now, take that to the stove. Cover with a lid, bring it up to heat, medium-high, and then bring it to a boil. And now once that comes to a boil, you're gonna take a lid, place the lid directly on top, and then cut your heat off and let it steam for around 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how much rice is in there. Then you can take the lid off, check it, make sure it's cooked through. If not, you can cover it and let it continue steaming until cooked through. Then once that timer's up, open up the lid. Looks like the rice is cooked, but first you always wanna check. So fluff it and always have a little taste. Make sure that it's cooked all the way. It's actually cooked quite nicely. It's never gonna be as good as a rice cooker, but it is pretty darn close. So you make a beautiful lasagna. You take it out of the oven, you immediately cut into it and serve it, and it just kind of falls flat all over the plate. It almost unravels. That's because you're doing it wrong. You have to let it rest for about 10 to 15, sometimes up to 20 minutes if it's really thick, before you cut into it. Here's what it looks like cut into fresh. Now we've let this rest a little bit, and I can already tell just by cutting it that it's gonna hold nicely together. And look at that, you can see all the layers. It's still nice and hot. Set it on a plate. Is this like a mind-bending hack? No, but if you want to serve people a really nice, even slice of lasagna, this is the only way to do it. You must rest it. Otherwise, yeah, if it's really saucy, it's gonna be even worse than this. It's gonna fall all over the place.
Here's how to remove the pulp from any juice. You just need the help of a naturally occurring enzyme, pectinase, often sold as Pectinex. You can find this on Amazon. Start with about half a liter of juice, about half a teaspoon of the pectinase enzyme into the juice. Swirl that around, then put this in the fridge and wait. The enzyme is gonna break down the pectin, that's the pulp that's making the juice cloudy, and we're gonna be able to strain this out and get clarified juice. Here you go, a day later. You can see the juice is very clear, still tinted orange on top. All the pulp has settled to the bottom. We just need to strain this through a coffee filter to finish catching any of the pulp to get our clarified juice. And since it's Sunday somewhere, some champagne, my clarified orange juice mimosa. Delicious.
Pickling something taking too long? Here's how restaurants do it instantly. If you have a vacuum sealer, fill a vac bag with your cucumbers that are sliced. Add in a splash of pickling liquid. Open up a vac sealer and give them a good old-fashioned suck. Not only do they look cool, but they're now instantly pickled.
Cutting desserts can be really messy. To solve that, run your knife through some warm water and give it a wipe before each slice. Cuts like butter. Clean cut.
For precision plating or precision anything in the kitchen, I get made fun of for this, but honestly, I got chunky fingers. Sometimes with all the caffeine I drink, I'm a little shaky. So, culinary tweezers, very underrated. So in the case of, let's say you're plating a basic crudo, you've got your nice herb oil on there and that looks all nice and pretty. But what about all the little things like carefully, daintily placing some jalapeno or some dainty herbs? All that is done much more effectively when you're using tweezers versus when I'm grabbing this and pinching this and trying to lay it ever so perfectly. The precise movements can be done with something much more precise.
For easier meat grinding and to prevent the fat from emulsifying and melting, make sure your meat is cold and your grinder parts are cold. I put the grinder parts in the freezer. As you can see, the fat's still in pieces and not melted all over the place.
If you're measuring sticky ingredients like honey, you ever pour it out and all of a sudden there's like half of it's left in the spoon? Take a little bit of cooking spray and just lightly spray the inside, add said sticky ingredient, and when you measure it and you pour it out into a container, it comes out significantly cleaner. So there's all the honey, here's how much was left, almost nothing. If you did it without greasing it, this is what happens. That's how much is left behind without the spray, this is how much is left behind with the spray. It's a hack, not a necessity, but might save you some fingering time. That's 100 more chef hacks, and I'm sure there are many, 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 many more out there. I'm not claiming that we know all of them, but we're trying to provide some of the best ones that we think are out there, and you have them now. Love you so much, subscribe, bye.